want to talk to you guys about something a little bit different than I normally talk about today, and I want to look inwards within my own party to talk about it, and that's the concept of management or the governance of a company, a not-for-profit, or a big, what we would call going concern. So many of you instinctively know that how you structure the management of something is very important, and it can determine whether or not that thing that you're trying to do, that entity that's working towards a goal, whether or not it's going to be successful or whether or not it's going to fail. And the reality is right now in the middle, the Conservative Party of Canada, we're in the middle of a leadership race. We're in the middle of, we just received, I haven't seen it, but I'll comment on that in another video, a report on what went wrong in the last election, what we need to do to go forward. And so I really think this is a time, given that we're, 16 years after the founding of our party, to talk about the management and the governance of our party, which isn't a super sexy topic in and of itself, but it's so vital. So here are some thoughts. In an entity like the Conservative Party of Canada, or in a company, you need to have checks and balances in place within your governance structure to make sure that everybody's held accountable to achieving what the vision is, or what the purpose of your organization is. In a big company, you're managing to profit and loss, and the board of directors is there to hold the management to account to make sure that shareholders' interests are taken care of. The Conservative Party of Canada, we ostensibly are an organization where we're trying to elect enough members of parliament to form government, and we're made up of hundreds, tens of thousands of members. And these are the people that within the structure of the party we have an accountability to, right? I'm a member of the party. Many of you who are watching are a member of the party as well. So how do we hold the management of the party accountable to make sure that we are successful in our goal of forming government? So right now, for those of you who might not realize this, I'm going to give you an outline of this current state of how we manage the party, or how the members selected or elected to manage the party when we first founded. So there's sort of three arms. There's the leader of the party, who has a lot of responsibility to achieving the goal of forming a government mandate, or getting that from the Canadian public. That leader is selected or elected by the members, so the members have a direct say in who is the leader of the party. Then there's something called National Council. And National Council is a group of elected representatives, members, delegates at conventions vote on who is going to represent them on National Council. There's a set number per province. And then there's something called the Fund. And the Fund members are appointed by the leader. National Council, in my opinion, doesn't really have as broad of a mandate as it probably should have with regard to the members that and the role of the people that are on there. For the most part right now, National Council, it deals with some things related to EDA management, etc., but it doesn't have direct oversight on the funds that you donate to the party. That is the fund's responsibility, the Conservative Fund that I just mentioned, and that's made up of those appointed people. So, without going into detail, or, I won't say without going into detail, but without rehashing the issue that came up in the media of our leaders' expenses, the first thing that I wanted to know was, okay, if there's a problem with that, how did they get approved? How did that get approved? Because the reality is that there's a group of people who are responsible for overseeing the budget of the fund. And former Prime Minister Harper was one of those people. He just stepped back from that role. And I think that's another reason why we should be looking at the governance of our party at this juncture. Given that the fund doesn't really interact with National Council in any sort of meaningful oversight way, or vice versa, I just kind of don't think that it's cutting the mustard, this governance structure. And I think there's probably a better way that we can do it. But I want to say this, in defense of the position of leader. When you are given, if somebody is given the mandate from our membership to lead the party, to be the person, then they also have a great degree of responsibility in getting that done. They need to have some flexibility and nimbleness within the operating structure in order to do that. So this is what I'm just going to throw something out. I'm not emotionally attached to this, but I feel like we're in the middle of a period in our party where we need to start having some big ideas. I'm going to throw it out there that how we're governed right now isn't the best way that we could be governed. We could do better. And what I would like to see is I would like to see the fund abolished and National Council abolished and a new combined entity put together, some sort of a governing council, that the leader, who is elected by the members, would be able to appoint probably a slim majority of the people who are on that board, and then the members elect the rest. Here's the other thing. Being on a board like that, where you're responsible or you have what's called a fiduciary responsibility for the oversight of a lot of funds, anybody on that board should be required to take corporate governance or board training. This has been done in many other parties. I know that the UCP, their joint executive council, they were required to take governance council because this isn't like a coffee party. This isn't, if you're sitting on a board of directors and you're managing funds, you need to understand things like corporate ethics requirements, basic accounting principles. You need to be able to understand looking at finances and looking at decisions, whether or not they're ethical, whether or not they're in the best interest for achieving the organization's mandate, and then be able to report that back to the people that have an interest or the members of our party. I would like to see anybody who sits on this governing council have that formal training within a 3-month period of sitting on there, or forfeit their seat on there, because that's a lot of money and a lot of responsibility that's going through this governing structure. I also think that we should have subcommittees on this particular structure. I think that there should be a finance committee. I think that, and then that there should be some reporting requirement back into the overall governing council, of course. I think that the chair of this council should be elected by the members of the governing council in coordination with the leader. Maybe even the leader could have a veto on that. That seems reasonable to me. And at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is the leader has a lot of responsibility, but we need to have a corporate governance structure that makes sure that there's appropriate checks and balances in place, that there's nimbleness so that the leader can get their job done, but also that we have the most efficient and effective way of governing. Now, for those of you who are liberals who are watching this stream saying like, oh, Michelle, the Conservative Party is terrible, I'm not sure that any of the federal parties actually get this right, to be honest with you. But I think that our party, now that we're 16 years post-merger, and we're going into a very serious leadership competition, that this leadership race can't just be about, and these are all relevant points, who can beat Justin Trudeau, who has the best policy, can't be a popularity contest. But it also should be about who has a vision for the management and the governance of a party, because if you don't have that structure right, then you really don't have a hope. And I'm not saying that all is terrible in the party right now, but I think we could probably do better. And I hope that if you're watching this and you're a member in the party, that you make this a priority. Because again, it's not a big sexy topic. We're talking about how we manage the party, and oftentimes that kind of gets pushed aside for things that are higher profile. But for me, if we're not going to get this right, then we're inevitably going to have problems. And now is the time to do something about it. So if you're a member in the party, make sure that you're telling your local riding association this is something that is important to you, that we should be talking about this at upcoming policy conventions. And if you're contacted by a leadership candidate or you're looking at who to endorse, ask them what their vision is for managing the party. Ask them if they think it's working well. Ask them if they think that there's ways to improve, and ask them for their ideas on how they would do that, and if they have the capacity to actually implement it. These are the sort of things we should be talking about at this juncture in our party's history. Working hard for you in Calgary. Have a great day.